to Virgo Potens. I invite you to give this video a like and to subscribe to my channel. YouTube has introduced a great feature called Super Thanks. If you enjoy this video, you can support my work or say thank you by clicking on the Super Thanks icon. It's similar to offering support through a super chat. Book 1, Chapters 58 to Chapter 60, from Prophecies and Revelations of Saint Bridget of Sweden. The words of the mother to the bride about how sweet the mother and the son are to each other, how Christ is bitter, bitterer, and most bitter for the evil, and how he is sweet, sweeter, and most sweet for the good. Chapter 58. The Mother of God said to the bride, "Consider, new bride of my Son, the suffering of my Son, which surpassed in bitterness the suffering of all the saints. Just as a mother would feel the most bitter sorrow and anguish if she ever saw her son being cut to pieces alive, so too was I grieving at the torments of my Son when I saw his bitter sufferings." Then she spoke to her son, saying, "Blessed be you, my son, for you are holy, as it is sung. Holy, holy, holy Lord God Sabaoth. Blessed be you, for you are sweet, sweeter, and most sweet. You were holy before you assumed manhood, holy in my womb, and holy after you assumed manhood. You were sweet before the creation of the world, sweeter to the angels, and most sweet to me, when you assumed manhood from me." The son answered, "Blessed be you, my beloved mother, above all the angels. Just as I, in a threefold way, was most sweet for you, as you were saying now, so I am bitter, bitterer, and most bitter for the wicked. I am bitter for those who say I have created many things without a reason, and who scornfully say, I have created mankind for death and not for life. What a miserable and foolish thought! Did I, who am the most righteous and virtuous, create the angels without a reason? Would I have enriched mankind with so many good things if I had created him for damnation? By no means. I created all things well, and gave every good to mankind out of my love. But he, however, turned all good things into evil for himself. It is not because I created anything evil, but mankind moves his will in another way than he should, and not according to God's law, and this is evil. But I am bitterer for those who say that I have given them a free will to sin and not to do good, who say I am unjust since I condemn some and justify others, and who blame me for their own wickedness because I withhold my grace from them. I am most bitter for those who say that my law and commandments are exceedingly harsh and difficult, and that no one is able to keep them, who say my suffering is worth nothing for them, and who therefore count it for nothing. Therefore, I swear by my life, as I once swore through the prophets, that I shall justify myself before the angels and all my saints. Those for whom I am bitter shall understand that I created all things reasonably and well for the use and education of mankind, and that not the smallest worm exists without a reason. Those for whom I am bitterer shall understand that I wisely gave men a free will for their own good. They will also know that I am just, giving the eternal kingdom to good men, but everlasting torment to the wicked. For it would not be proper for the devil, who was created good by me, but who fell through his own malice, to have fellowship with the good. The wicked will also understand that it is not my fault that they are evil, but their own fault. For if it were possible, I would gladly take upon myself the same torment for each and every man that I once suffered on the cross for all, if thereby they could return to their promised inheritance. But the will of mankind is always opposed to mine. I give him liberty to serve me, if he would, and to gain the eternal reward. But if he does not want to, he should be tormented together with the devil and his followers, for whose malice hell was justly created. But because I am full of charity, I do not want mankind to serve me out of fear or be forced to do so like an irrational animal, but out of love for God. For no one who serves me unwillingly or out of fear of torment can see my face. But those for whom I am most bitter will understand in their consciences that my law was most easy and my yoke most sweet. They will feel inconsolable sadness that they despised my law and instead loved the world, whose yoke is heavier and much more difficult than my yoke. Then the Mother of God answered, "Blessed be you, my Son, my God, and my Lord. Since you were most sweet for me, I beg of you that others may be made partakers of my sweetness." The Son answered, "Blessed be you, my most dear Mother. Your words are sweet and full of love. Therefore shall each and every one who takes your sweetness into his mouth and keeps it perfectly be benefited thereby. But the one who takes it and spits it out again will be tormented all the more bitterly." Then the Virgin answered, "Blessed be you, my Son, for all your mercy and love." The words of Christ in the presence of the bride, about how Christ is likened to a peasant, good priests to a good shepherd, bad priests to a bad shepherd, and good Christians to a wife. Many useful things are also explained in this parable. Chapter 59. I am the one who never said anything false. The world considers me to be a peasant whose name seems contemptible. My words are counted as foolish, and my house is considered a despicable shed. This peasant had a wife who wanted nothing other than what he wanted, who owned everything with him, and had him as her master, obeying him in all things as her master. This peasant also had many sheep, and he hired a shepherd to watch over them for 5 gold coins, and for the necessities of his bodily needs. Since this was a good shepherd, he used the gold to his benefit, and the food for his sustenance. After some time had gone by, this shepherd moved, and another shepherd came who was worse, who bought himself a wife with the gold, and brought her his food, constantly taking his rest with her, without caring about the sheep that were being lamentably scattered by cruel beasts. When the peasant saw how his sheep were being scattered, he cried out, saying, "My shepherd is unfaithful to me. My sheep are scattered by the most cruel beasts. Some of them are completely devoured by the beasts with body and fleece, while others are dead, but their bodies left uneaten." Then the wife said to her husband, the peasant, "My lord, it is certain that we will not get back the bodies that are devoured, but the bodies who have remained unharmed, even though they are without life, should be brought home and made use of by us. For it would be unbearable for us if we lost everything." The husband answered her, "But what shall we do? Since the animals had venomous teeth, the flesh of the sheep had also become poisoned with deadly venom. The hide is ruined, and the wool is all tangled." The wife answered, "If everything is infected and ruined, and everything taken from us, what shall we then live on?" The husband answered her, "I see that there are sheep still alive in 3 places. Some are like the dead sheep and do not dare to breathe out of fear. Other sheep are lying deep in filth and cannot raise themselves up. Still others lie in hiding places and dare not come forth. Come therefore, my wife, and let us lift up the sheep that are trying to raise themselves up, but cannot do so without help, and let us make use of them to our own benefit. Behold, I the Lord am this peasant. For men consider me to be a donkey raised in its stall according to its ways and habits. My name is the foundation of the holy church, but she is now considered to be contemptible, since the sacraments of the church, namely baptism, confirmation, anointing, penance, and matrimony, are taken, as it were, with derision and given to others for the sake of greed. My words and deeds are considered and judged to be foolish and vain, for the words that I spoke in parables with my own mouth have now been converted from a spiritual understanding to temporal entertainment. My house is looked on as contemptible, for the things of the earth are loved instead of the things of heaven. With this first shepherd I symbolize my friends the priests, which I used to have in the Holy Church, for by a single word I mean and signify many. I entrusted them with my sheep, that is, to consecrate my most venerable body and to rule and defend the souls of my chosen ones. I also gave them 5 good things more precious than all gold. First, an insight and understanding about all abstruse things, so that they will be able to distinguish between good and evil, and between truth and falsehood. Second, I gave them understanding and wisdom in spiritual things. This has now been forgotten, and human wisdom is loved instead. Third, I gave them chastity. Fourth, temperance in all things, and abstinence for the restraining and guidance of their body. Fifth, steadfastness in good habits, words, and deeds. After this first shepherd, that is, after these friends of mine, who used to be in my church in days of old, other unrighteous shepherds came, that bought a wife for themselves with the gold. That is, they took to themselves the body of a woman and intemperance, instead of chastity, and these 5 good things, and that is why my spirit departed from them. For when they have a complete will to sin, and to satisfy their wife, that is, to satisfy their lust, then my spirit is absent from them, since they do not care about the perdition of the sheep, so long as they can fulfill their evil lust. But the sheep that are completely devoured are those whose soul are in hell, and whose bodies are buried in the grave, awaiting the resurrection of eternal damnation. The sheep whose flesh remains, but whose spirit is taken away, are those who neither love me, nor fear me, nor feel any devotion or care toward me. My spirit is far away from them, since their flesh is poisoned by the venomous teeth of the beasts, that is, their soul and their thoughts, which are symbolized by the sheep's flesh and intestines, are in every way as disgusting to me and as repulsive to taste as is poisoned meat. From their hide, that is, from their body, has all goodness and charity dried out, and it is unfit for any service in my kingdom, and shall be delivered to the everlasting fire of hell after the judgment. Their wool, that is, their deeds, are so altogether useless that there is nothing in them that would make them worthy to receive my love and grace. But what shall we do then, my wife, that is, good Christians, whom the wife symbolizes? What should we do? I see that sheep are alive in 3 places. Some of them look like the dead sheep, and do not dare to breathe out of fear. These are the Gentiles, who would gladly have the right faith if only they knew how, but who do not dare to breathe, that is, they do not dare to leave the faith that they have and take the right faith. The second sheep are those lying in hiding places who do not dare to come forth, and these are the Jews who live, so to speak, under a veil, and who would gladly come forth if they knew for certain that I was born. They namely hide themselves under a veil, since their hope for salvation is in the figures and signs that used to symbolize me in the old law, but which in truth have been fulfilled in me. And because of this vain hope, they are afraid to come forth to the right faith. The third sheep that lie in the filth are Christians in this state of mortal sin. They would gladly raise themselves up because of their fear of the torment, but they cannot due to their heavy sins and because they have no divine love. Therefore, my wife, that is, good Christians, help me. For just as a wife and a man should be one flesh and one limb, so the Christian is my limb, and I am his, since I am in him, and he is in me. Therefore, O wife of mine, that is, good Christians, run with me to the sheep that still have a breath of life, and let us lift them up and refresh them. Have compassion on me, for I bought them at a very high price. Let us lift them up, you with me, and me with you, you at the back, and I at the head. I gladly carry them with my hands. Once I carried them all on my back when it was all lacerated and fastened to the cross. O my friends, I loved these sheep so dearly that, if it were possible for me to suffer such a death for each sheep as I once suffered on the cross for all of them, I would rather redeem them than want to lose them. That is why I cry out to my friends with all my heart, that they should not spare goods or work for my sake. For if I was not spared from reproaching and insulting words while I was in the world, they should not spare themselves in speaking the truth about me. I was not ashamed to suffer a contemptible death for their sake, but stood there naked, just as I was born, before the eyes of my enemies. I was struck in the teeth with their fists. I was dragged by the hair with their fingers, and scourged by their scourges. I was fastened to the cross with their tools, and I hung on the cross between thieves and robbers. Therefore, my friends, do not spare yourself in working for me, since I endured such things out of love for you. Work manfully and bring help to all my sheep in distress. I swear by my manhood, which is in the Father, as the Father is in me, and by my divinity, which is in my spirit, as the Spirit is in the divinity, and the same Spirit is in me, and I in him. And these are one God in three persons, that I shall run out to meet those halfway who work in carrying my sheep with me, and help them. And I shall give them the most precious reward, namely, myself unto their everlasting joy. The words of the Son to the bride about the three kinds of Christians that are symbolized by the Jews living in Egypt, and about how the things which have been revealed to the bride should be transmitted, published, and preached to the ignorant persons by the friends of God. Chapter 60. The Son of God spoke to the bride and said, I am the God of Israel, and the one who spoke with Moses. When Moses was sent to my people, he begged for a sign, saying, The people will not believe me otherwise. But if the people to whom Moses was sent were the Lord's people, why did they not believe? You should know that this people consisted of three kinds of men. Some believed in God and Moses. Others believed in God but distrusted Moses, in that they thought that he, perhaps of his own invention and presumption, had presumed to say and do these things. The third were those who neither believed in God nor in Moses. In the same way, there are now three kinds of men among Christians who are symbolized by the Hebrew people. There are some who rightly believe in God and in my words. There are others who believe in God but distrust my words, because they cannot distinguish between the good and the evil spirit. The third are those who neither believe in me nor in you to whom I have spoken my words. But as I said, even though some of the Hebrews distrusted Moses, nevertheless they all went through the Red Sea with him and into the desert, where those who had not believed worshipped idols and provoked God into wrath, which is why they also died in the most miserable of deaths. But only those who had an evil faith did so. Therefore, my friend shall carry my words to those who believe him, since the human soul is slow to believe, and these shall afterward spread them to others who do not know how to distinguish between the good and the evil spirit. But if the hearers beg them for a sign, let them show those men the staff just as Moses did. That is, let them explain my words to them. For just as the staff of Moses was straight and terrifying, for it was transformed into a snake, so are my words straight so that no falsehood can be found in them. They are terrifying, since they proclaim the righteous judgment. Let them also explain and testify that, by a word and sound of a single mouth, the devil yielded from the creature of God, he who could move mountains, if he were not restrained by my power. What kind of power belonged to him when, with God's permission, he was driven away by the sound of a single word? Therefore, just as those Hebrews, who neither believed in God nor in Moses, yet went out of Egypt for the promised land when they, as it were forced along together with the others, so too many Christians go out unwillingly together with my chosen men, since they do not trust in my power to heal them. They do not believe in my words, and they have a false hope in my power. Nevertheless, my words shall be fulfilled without their will, and shall be, as it were, forced along to fulfillment until they get to the place that pleases me. Welcome to the Virgo Potens YouTube channel. If you enjoy this video, give it a like. I also invite you to subscribe to this channel so that you won't miss new content. Please prayerfully consider supporting my work by becoming a patron of Virgo Potens on Patreon and/or by buying one of my books. My ebooks are available on Amazon as well as on the Apple Bookstore. For those who prefer a physical copy rather than an ebook, my book, Spiritual Warfare, Know Thy Enemy, is also available as a paperback on Amazon. If you are interested in making a one-time contribution, I suggest that you do so by simply buying one of my books. I am thankful for your support. Links to Patreon and to my books will be posted in the comments section of this video. The continuation of this work isn't possible without you. Lastly, and most importantly, please pray for me. May the Virgin Most Powerful guide and protect you.